There is a photo that scientists do not want you to see, not because it is dangerous or secret, but because it challenges everything you imagine about extinct animals. It is the image of a predator who died 28,000 years ago, but seems to have been frozen yesterday. The mustaches are still there, the prey sharp as razors, and the most disturbing, the facial expression, as if he knew that one day would be found. Welcome to the most impressive case of preserving natural history. A lion of the caves with intact muscles, preserved organs, and secrets that are rewriting the paleontology books. August 2018, Siberia. A miner was excavating permafrost when his pick hit something that shouldn't be there. It wasn't rock, it was not ordinary ice, it was by the golden, soft, as if he belonged to an animal that had just died. But here is the chilling detail. That layer of permafrost had been dated, 28,000 years. Nothing organic should be preserved that way. Nothing. What he had found would change our understanding of the Ice Age forever. Because it was not just a fossil. It was a window in time. A biological time machine that would allow us, for the first time, to look into the eyes of one of the most feared predators that has ever walked on the earth. Panthera spelaea, the cave lion. An animal that makes the modern African lion look like a domestic kitten. And yes, I said, look in the eyes, literally, because this specimen still had the eyes. When the team of paleontologists arrived at the scene, they did not believe what they saw. Dr. Albert Protopopov, head of the Yakutia Academy of Sciences, described the moment. In 30 years of career, I never saw anything like that. It was as if the animal had been placed in pause. The specimen, nicknamed Sparta, was a young female, probably under 2 years old when she died. But what made Sparta special was not just his age, it was his state of preservation. Just imagine, the hair still kept its original color, a gray gold with darker spots. The claws, retractable like those of modern cats, could still be extended. The internal organs were so well preserved that scientists were able to examine the stomach content. And do you know what you found? Breast milk. She was still being breastfed. But wait, it gets even more extraordinary. When they did the computed tomography, they found that the brain was intact, not fossilized, not replaced by minerals. The royal brain, with its neural structures preserved by the extreme cold of Siberia. Now let me paint a picture for you. Forget everything you think you know about lions. Panthera spelaea was not just a big lion. It was a hunting machine perfected for millions of years of evolution. First, the size. An adult male could weigh up to 360 pounds. This is 25% higher than today's greatest African lions. The females, like our Sparta, reached 250 pounds. To put in perspective, it is the weight of 3 adult men. But the size was just the beginning. These predators had unique adaptations to survive in the Ice Age. More robust and muscular legs to pursue and tone in the deep snow. An expanded ribcage box to process more oxygen in the thin air of glacial altitudes. And here is the fascinating detail. They had no mane. That's right. Unlike modern lions, cave males did not sport that iconic mane. Why? The answer is in the rock painting. Our ancestors, who lived with these animals, portrayed them in dozens of caves around Europe. And in no image there is Jubis. The theory? In the extreme cold, a mane would be a disadvantage, would accumulate ice and snow, making the animal heavier and visible. But let's go back to Sparta and its miraculous state of preservation. What scientists found when they started examining the body in detail is the chin. The whiskers, those feline sensory mustaches, were not only present, but still kept their microscopic structure. Each hair follicle could be examined. Do you know what that means? We could study how these animals felt the world around them. The milk teeth were still in the process of being replaced by the permanent. Some had already fallen, others were loose. It's like looking at the mouth of a prehistoric giant kitten in the middle of the dentition. There is something strangely humanizing in this. But the most shocking discovery came when they examined their eyes under electronic microscope. The retinal structures were still visible. Photoreceptor cells, those that capture light, preserved for almost 30 millennia. Scientists theorize that with the right technology, we could even rebuild what Sparta saw in their last moments. And speaking of the last moments, the position in which it was found tells a story. She was huddled, like modern cats when they sleep. There are no signs of struggle, injury, or predation. Sparta simply fell asleep and never woke up. Now what do we know about how these magnificent predators lived? Thanks to Sparta and other specimens found, we are setting up a fascinating puzzle. First, they were social animals, but not exactly like modern lions. Evidence suggests that they hunted in pairs or small family groups, not large packs. Imagine 2 or 3 of these giants working together to overthrow a mammoth. Yes, mammoths. Tooth marks on mammoth bones perfectly correspond to the dentition of cave lions. But here is where it is interesting. They were climbers. Unlike modern lions that are purely terrestrial, cave lions had climbing adaptations. Curved claws, more flexible shoulder joints. They probably used caves on cliffs like burrows, hence the name. The analysis of breast milk in the stomach of Sparta revealed something touching: very high levels of antibodies and fat. Mothers were heavily invested in their puppies, probably because the child mortality rate was brutal. Only the strongest survived glacial winters. And do you know what the life expectancy was? Based on tier of teeth of adult specimens, we estimated that they rarely passed 15 years. The life in the Ice Age was short and intense. Guys, if you are as fascinated as I have these discoveries, leave that like. Seriously, this kind of content takes research weeks, and each like helps YouTube understand that you want more scientific mysteries like this. And look, if you have come here, you are clearly someone who appreciates the deepest secrets of nature. So subscribe to the channel. Every week I bring cases that will explode your mind, from animals that challenge the laws of physics to archaeological discoveries that rewrite history. The button is down there. Just press and activate the bell. Now let's make some comparisons that will put in perspective how impressive the cave lions were. Bite force. A modern lion has a bite force of about 650 psi. The cave lion? Estimates based on the skull structure suggest something between 1,000 and 1,200 psi. This is enough force to break the femur of a biscuit with a single bite. Speed. Despite the larger size, biomechanical analyses suggest that they could reach speeds similar to modern lions, about 80 km/h on short shots. But here is the trick. They kept pursuit speeds of 50 km/h for much longer. They were marathon runners, not sprinters. Intelligence. Sparta's preserved brain is giving us amazing insights. The prefrontal cortex, associated with planning and strategy, was 20% higher proportionally than in modern lions. These animals were born strategists. But the most dramatic difference? The social structure. While modern lions have herons with a dominant male, evidence suggests that cave lions formed monogamous pairs. Yes, you heard right. These Ice Age giants were romantic. Bones found in pairs, always a male and a female, support this theory. And that leads us to the big question: what killed the cave lions? Like a predator so perfectly adapted simply, has it disappeared? Traditional theory blamed climate change. The end of the Ice Age, about 12,000 years ago, would have destroyed its habitat. But Sparta and other recent discoveries are complicating this narrative. See, we find lions of the caves that lived during the previous hot periods. They survived multiple climate change over 500,000 years. So why was the last one different? The answer may be in a disturbing detail found in Sparta: abnormally high levels of hormonal stress preserved in their tissues. Cortisol in quantities that indicate chronic stress, not acute. Something was deeply disturbing these animals in their last thousands of years. The most accepted theory now is the perfect storm: climate change plus a new super predator. We, modern humans, arrived in Europe about 45,000 years ago, but only developed sophisticated hunting technologies about 20,000 years ago, just when the cave lions began their decline. Evidence? Spear places were found on cave lions' ribs. Rock art shows humans surrounding these predators. Not only did we compete for prey, we actively hunted the hunters. But the most shocking revelations came from DNA tests. Yes, we managed to extract usable DNA from Sparta. and what we discovered rewritten the books of feline evolution. First, cave lions were not ancestral of modern lions. They were a completely separate lineage that diverged about 1.8 million years ago. It is like discovering that his distant cousin was actually of another species. Second, they hybridized. Sparta DNA shows intersection traces with primitive African lions. This means that for warmer periods, some populations migrated south and reproduced with other species. Hybrid puppies were fertile, creating a complex genetic web. Third, and more controversial, we find active genes for characteristics that make no sense. Genes to detect ultraviolet light. Why would a night predator need to see UV? Genes to produce a type of antifreeze protein found in Arctic fish. How did these genes end up in a mammal? The isotopic analysis of hair revealed Sparta's complete diet in the months before his death. 60% reindeer, 25% bison, 10% wild horse, and surprisingly, 5% fish. Yes, fish. These giant cats fishing. But the discovery that leaves me awake at night is this. We find evidence that Sparta's brain was undergoing accelerated neurogenesis, creation of new neurons at the time of death. This is a process that we usually only see in animals under extreme environmental stress, when the brain is desperately trying to adapt to change. What was happening 28,000 years ago that forced these perfect predators to literally reconfigure their brains? You know, there is something deeply melancholy in looking at Sparta. She died young, never knew the world beyond ice and snow. He has never seen the African plains from which his ancestors came. He never tried the heat of the sun in a savanna. But at the same time, she was part of something epic. The cave lions reigned for 500,000 years. Ice ages survived, volcanic explosions, asteroid impacts. They were the undisputed kings of their world. And then we appeared. There is a humiliating lesson here. We think we are special, that our dominance is guaranteed. But the cave lions probably thought the same. For 500,000 years, they were the supreme predators. In just 20,000 years, a blink of eyes in evolutionary terms, they disappeared. What Sparta teaches us is that nothing is permanent. Not even evolutionary perfection guarantees survival. Adaptability overcomes strength. Cooperation wins size. And sometimes the world changes too fast for even the most powerful to adapt. But here is the thought that haunts me. What if we could clone Sparta? We have DNA. The technology is almost there. In theory, we could bring the cave lions back. But should we? In a world without mammoths, without large herds of bisons, without the vast icy tundras, would it be cruelty or redemption? Would we be correcting an old mistake or making a new one? Sparta sleeps for 28,000 years in a freezer in Yakutsk, Siberia. Scientists around the world come to study it, each finding new pieces of the puzzle. She became a posthumous celebrity, the ambassador of a lost species. But perhaps Sparta's most important lesson is this. The past is not as dead as we think. He is there, waiting on the ice, on the rocks, in the DNA we carry. Each discovery as this reminds us that the story of life on Earth is stranger, more beautiful and more fragile than we will ever imagine. The lions of the caves are gone, but through Sparta, they roam again. Not with their throats, but with the truths that teach us about survival, extinction, and the price of progress. And now I want to hear you. If we could bring back an extinct kind, should it be the cave lion? Or would you choose another animal? And most importantly, if Sparta wake up today, in the middle of 2024, what do you think would shock it in our world? Leave your answers in the comments. I read everyone, and the most creative I answer personally. If this video has changed its way of seeing extinction and evolution, share it with someone who also loves mysteries of nature. And remember, somewhere, on the eternal ice of Siberia, more Spartas wait to be discovered. More frozen stories in time. More secrets that challenge everything we know. Until the next discovery, guys, stay curious.